Have you ever really looked at a map? You know, any map, from some old-timey treasure map to the GPS on your phone? There's always that one little symbol, kind of tucked away in the corner, the compass rose. It looks simple, right? But that little star, it's one of the most powerful tools we've ever come up with. So let's get into it. I mean, really, stop and think about that for a second. Before you could just punch in an address and have a robot voice tell you where to go, how did anybody get anywhere? Right now, it's just easy. It's totally effortless. We've got GPS in our cars, on our phones. Finding our way is instant. We completely take for granted this wild ability to know exactly where we are on the planet at any given moment. But here's the thing. All of that amazing technology, every single satellite and every app, it's all built on a really old, really simple idea. An idea that's perfectly captured by this one little symbol, the compass rose. So let's rewind and start with the basic problem this thing was invented to solve. And that is the simple and often pretty dangerous act of finding our way. For hundreds and hundreds of years, exploration was a huge gamble. You had sailors and adventurers crossing these enormous, empty oceans with absolutely nothing but their wits. They had to rely on the sun, the stars, and this one critical tool, a magnetic compass, just to stay on course and, hopefully make it back alive. And to make any sense of that journey on a piece of paper, they needed a guide, kind of like a North Star for the map itself. And that right there is where the compass rose comes into the picture. So what is it really? Well, at its most basic, a compass rose is just that small, star-shaped drawing that shows you direction. It's the anchor. It's the point that gives the entire map its meaning. Here's a cool way to think about it. Every map tells a story about a place, where the mountains are, where the cities are, but without a compass rose, you have no idea how any of it fits together. You've got the story, but you can't read it. The compass rose is the key that unlocks the whole thing. And what's amazing is that this simple symbol creates a whole language of location, a language that, honestly, we all just kind of get without even thinking about it. It all starts with 4 words you learned as a kid: north, south, east, and west. Those are the cardinal directions. They're the 4 main points that basically anchor our entire sense of place on this planet. But of course, the world isn't just 4 straight lines, right? So for a little more detail, we have what are called intermediate directions. These are just the points in between, northeast, southwest, you get the idea. It just lets you be way more precise. And with just those few terms, you've got this universal system. It doesn't matter if you're a 3rd grader learning about your neighborhood or an airline pilot flying across the world. Those words mean the exact same thing. It's what turns a drawing into a real, functional guide. This language also lets us talk about something called relative location, which is just a fancy way of saying where something is compared to something else. Instead of a complicated street address, you can just say, oh, the library is east of the school. Simple. You're speaking the language of the map. So how in the world does this ancient symbol from old parchment maps have anything to do with the glowing pixels on our screens today? Well, the connection is actually way more direct than you might think. This quote really nails it. The compass rose isn't just some dusty old symbol. It is literally a bridge. It connects the world of those early explorers right to our world today. Think about it. Back then, sailors were using these core principles to chart brand new lands. Today, pilots, hikers, and yeah, you, every time you use your phone for directions, are using the exact same principles to get around safely. The tools have changed, but the fundamental idea, it hasn't changed one bit. And that's the bottom line. The technology has gone from a little magnetic needle to a global network of satellites, but the big idea is exactly the same. Your GPS is constantly using north, south, east, and west to figure out where you are and how to get you where you're going. Okay, so this all leads to the big question. Sure, it helps us not get lost. But beyond that, why does this one little symbol matter so much? Well, to really get it, let's flip the question. What would actually happen if a map didn't have a compass rose? What would it even be like to try and use it? The answer is so simple, but it's also kind of profound. Without that little anchor of direction, a map stops being a tool. It just becomes a picture, an illustration. It might show you where things are, but it gives you 0 clue how to get from one to another. It's beautiful, maybe, but totally useless for navigation. And that idea, that goes way beyond just geography, doesn't it? It's a great reminder that knowing your direction is always the first step toward reaching your destination, whether you're looking at a map or just thinking about your life. Which leaves us with one last thought to chew on. The compass rose guided humanity across the entire planet by giving us a fixed, reliable point of reference. It's the constant that helps us figure out a changing world. So, as you go about your day, maybe ask yourself, what's your north? Have you ever really looked at a map? Any map.